fail. Don't fraud with balance in examination. Do rightly.
Yeah. And now we'll go to the presentations by the participants. First, let me know as to how many are present for making the presentations. I'll just read out the name. If you are present, please raise your hand so that I'll take, and then we can say what time would be given to each person. Smriti? Is she present, Smriti? You say yes or no? Yes? No. Okay. Others can say. Dr. Kandula Salaya? Yes? Huh? Co-author is Aditi. You are present. Fine. Then Dr. Kandula Salaya. Okay. Next. We'll know. Okay, how many are there for presenting paper in this? Even I should know the names, na. We should know the names, na. I'll just read out the names. You please tell. Dr. P. Amaraveni, Professor M. Yadagiri, N. Aparna, Sharada, Vittal, Sai Geeta, yeah, Sai Geeta, okay. Mahesh, K. Mahesh, no. Divya, yes. Prasad, no. Manisha, is she present? Manisha and Mamata, yes. Manisha and Mamata. Sachinarayana, no. If I say no, that means they are not going to present. Neelavati, no. Vishwanath, Priyanka, Khan Firdaus, no. Pradeep Kumar, yes. Pradeep Kumar, no. Krishna, yes. Vaishali, Professor S.V. Sachinarayana, okay, fine. Professor S.V. Sachinarayana and Vijay Kumar. Vijay Kumar, are you going to make a presentation, Vijay Kumar? No, fine. Aravinda? No. Professor C.H. Srinivas? No. Gopi Krishna? Sanjeev, yes. Pradeep? Yes. Sanjeeva Rao? No. Rajan Lakshmi? No. Upadhyaya? Fine. And then Dr. Rachappa. 17 are there. Now the time available is 55 minutes. 55 minutes. Each one will get 2.5 minutes time. Coming, going time takes. So what I'll read out the name and the topic. So when you come over here, no introduction, straight, direct. What are the objectives? What is the methodology you followed? What are the main findings? So that everyone will get an opportunity, and other papers are only abstracts. They are deemed to be read. Now, first presentation would be Dr. Rachappa, Earnings Management to Avoid Losses, Evidence from India. 2.5 minutes time would be given. Your objective, finding, conclusion if time permits. Thank you.
Rachappa. Yeah, I'm going to extend what Murthy sir said. It is on earnings management to avoid losses. It's an evidence from India. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The objectives are to examine the existence of earnings management to avoid losses. Companies normally try to avoid small amount of loss and report a small amount of profit. So I'm trying to find out the existence of evidence in India. and to examine the frequency of such earnings management and to identify what are the methods used to manage the earnings. So this is the literature. In US, it is found that a lot of companies are involved in managing earnings. And also, post 2002, it is found that there is no earnings management in US to avoid a small amount of loss and to report a small amount of profit. There is no such evidence post 2002. My study is based on 1648 firms of NSE and based on 15 years. And we use Silverman model to calculate the interval and so on. And we tested with the standardized difference test. We found that there is significant existence of earnings management to avoid a small amount of losses and to report a small amount of a profit. And magnitude is 1 to 4% of total number of observations. 1 to 4% of total number of observations are involved in earnings management, and 7 to 18% of loss-making companies are avoiding small amount of losses and they are reporting a small amount of profit. This is the frequency or magnitude, which is very high. And coming to the methods, what are the methods used to manage the earnings? I'll come to straightforward conclusion. This is the evidence. The methods are real activities like the reducing the senior management bonus or reducing R&D expenditure are some of the measures to manage earnings or some of the measures to avoid the losses. That's one. And second one is a short-term accruals, which is called change in working capital, such as you all know that provision for bad debts is used to minimize the losses and report the profit. Credit sales, which is easier to manage the earnings, and they have used the inventory as a method to manage the earnings. So that's all about existence of earnings management, and the magnitude is very high to avoid the losses in India and to report the small amount of profit, and working capital accrual and a cash flow from operations is used as method of earnings management. So thank you.
Let's move on to objectives of the paper. Objectives of the paper include to create awareness about leading practices that organizations have generally found out to be effective, and to understand the importance of fraud management in today's business environment, to provide various suggestions to prevent fraud, which enhances not just individual values but also organizational values. Now, ways to minimize the financial fraud gimmick include know your employees very well, including their backgrounds, make employees aware, set up a reporting system in your organization, implement internal controls, and monitor vacation balances. Hire experts like certified fraud examiners, certified public accountants, etc. And live the positive corporate culture. Next is to develop an anti-fraud culture that is going beyond just ethics and compliance policies related to anti-fraud controls. An effective anti-fraud culture should be coordinated effort of spreadheaded by management with an assembled cast of employees. A strong reason to develop such culture is to predict, preempt, and prevent fraud. When you develop an anti-fraud culture, it should be such that even the dishonest people in your organization are quite clear in the knowledge that honest employees will not tolerate any sort of potential deceit. Here are a few tips to develop an anti-fraud culture in your organization. Set the tone at the top, right from the your company mission and vision statement, and build fraud awareness programs and the consequences related to it. Ensure that the policies and procedures are in order in the organization. Encourage the whistleblowing policies. Create a dedicated anti-fraud team. Sorry.
Thank you. Next, Professor M. Yadagiri and Mr. G. Srinivas.
In the last decade,
Professor.
development of capital market, bank services, industrial production increased per capita income of the country. But the financial frauds are the major hindrance to development of the country. From the last few years have been evident to increase number of frauds in India as well as globally. So my objectives of the study are to analyze the number and amount of bank frauds, to study the year-wise fraud cases reported by commercial banks, to examine the number and amount of corporate frauds, to discuss the number and amount of cyber frauds, to explain the process of fraud examination in India. So, types of frauds. Frauds are broadly classified into three categories, like bank frauds, corporate frauds, as well as cyber frauds. So if you see bank frauds cases as well as the total amount involved in the bank frauds are, so if you see the cases are in decreasing trend, whereas the amount is in increasing trend. So the bank fraud cases are decreasing, but whereas the amount is increasing. As well as if you see the category wise, so nationalized banks recorded less cases, whereas the private and other banks are recorded very high cases, but the amount involved in nationalized including SBI is very high. So if you see the corporate frauds from the year 1992, we have seen number of frauds, number of scams, like Arshad Mehta scam, the amount involved in 4,000 crores, CR Bansali, Kabar scam, Virendra Rostagari scam, Telgi scam, as well as Satyam scam. Like that we have number of corporate frauds. Then cyber frauds. If you see cyber frauds, the new private sector banks recorded very number of cases, as well as the amount involved in private sector banks is very high comparing to government as well as foreign banks, because the private banks are not following particular norms like KYC norms, all those things, because of that the cases in private banks are very high. So fraud examination in India. So to detect fraud in India, we have some agencies like SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office, Central Bureau of Investigation, Central Vigilance Commission. These are the authorities which deals with fraud examination. As well as to prevent fraud, many of the companies are following some fraud examination process, as well as they are using some softwares like IDEA, like ACL, Sama audit software they are using to prevent the frauds, to prevent the fraud cases. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.